Hi there, welcome back to the 67 Hail Hail channel on YouTube. Right, we're going to go in depth in Eddie Howe today, guys, but before that, we've got a bit of good news. Today, the channel crossed the 2 million view mark, so we just want to say a big thanks to everyone who's supported the channel, either by watching the videos, subscribing, talking about our videos. A thanks to you two as well, to John McGinley, to David, to me, myself, thanking myself. But we're doing well on the channel and we appreciate all the support we're getting. Remember, if you've not yet subscribed, now is the time to do it. We post videos every single day. We've got Jackie as part of the channel. We've got numerous others, and you can get involved by subscribing to the channel. But a big thanks, big milestone for us today. Right, guys, we're going to chat a bit about Eddie Howe then. We've spoken about him on the channel a lot, but obviously over the Easter break, we've had the big development that it seems like he's going to be Celtic's next manager. Jackie, we may be made to look a bit foolish here in a couple of days' time when he isn't the Celtic manager. Are you confident this one's going to go through?
Yeah, absolutely. It looks that way. You know, the reports and all the press outlets that Eddie's the preferred choice in a matter of time before he takes over. Which, I've said a number of times in this. I think he'd be a good appointment. I think he's quite well thought of. He's a good way about him. As I said, I was on my coaching course, my pro licence with him over in Belfast, and I was impressed with him. I think he'd be a good appointment.
Right, so people obviously be wanting to know, Jackie, what's he like? What's the secrets? Was he loud? Was he quiet?
I think he's quiet. I think he's quiet. He goes about his business. He's quite guarded with his thing. But I think he's a real thinker. But I think he's quite measured in his approach. His teams play, I think, a good brand of football. And I think he had a good support mechanism around him at Bournemouth, which obviously leads on to Richard Hughes. It was been mentioned. I think Richard would be a great addition to come with him. Who he trusts in the transfer market and has a good eye for players that have helped Bournemouth over the years. So, I could see that being happening as well, and that would solve the problem of director of football that we've been talking about for a number of months.
Yeah, Euan, what do you make of the whole situation with Eddie Howe, and what do you make? Do you think it's important he comes in with someone he knows and he trusts, like Richard Hughes?
I'm a little in two minds about it. I'm all for Eddie Howe. I'm on the Howe helicopter, all that stuff. My concern is, traditionally, I think the director of football is meant to come in exclusively from the manager, because you're ideally looking at a director of football to be there probably longer term than a manager. But honestly, at this point, if he brings in Eddie Howe with him, if that's the sticking point, then go for it.
Yeah, the chat is, well, in the past he's worked with Jason Tindall. That's been his long-term assistant manager. He's worked with him his entire time at Bournemouth. He worked with him in his 2 years at Burnley. There's also been reports, Jackie, that Gavin Strachan and John Kennedy could be kept on under Eddie Howe. I think the Daily Mail reported last week. What's your thoughts on Howe coming in and working with the existing coaching team? Is that something that could work?
I think something could work. I think for both parties. I think for him it'd be better if he brought his own people in, and a fresh, for the players that are there. Speaking from the players' side, because some players have maybe liked their, and he's been the manager, with John being the manager now. In his own mind, he thinks, or he should think that he should be having more of a shot at being the manager. He's had a taste of it. For me, I think John has to go away and learn on his own, on his own 2 feet, take a job and work his way up. And to get the Celtic job the way he has, I think he would have to earn it, and a shot at that. And I don't think he's done that. I think he's learned a lot from his previous managers, with Ronnie, with Brendan, with Neil. But I do think for his own development and learning to be a manager is to go and start, and work his way up and make his decisions, bring his players in, work behind the scenes, and one day might come back to Celtic as a manager. But I think just now, I don't think it would be, right for him personally, having been the manager, to stay there. And behind Eddie and thinking, it should be me, because he'll have that in the back of his mind, and it changes the energy as well with the players, because that just now they'll be calling him gaffer or boss, or they don't know what to call him, and then you've got a new manager coming in, and it just looks a bit messy to start with. I think we've lost the manager there with Neil going. Peter Law's leaving at the end of the season. New chief exec's coming in. Hopefully, the director of football, head of recruitment's left, the captain's left. It's a whole new setup right through the team. The new players coming in as well. And I think if you keep the guy that's in charge just now, along with Gavin, I don't think that's changing everything that needs to be changed.
You've kind of swayed me, Jackie, because I was thinking that Kennedy, it might be quite good to keep Kennedy around because he'd have the knowledge of the Scottish game, and obviously Eddie Howe doesn't have that. But when you're talking from a player's point of view, you described it as being messy, the fact that they're calling him gaffer or whatever, and then maybe they're not calling him gaffer, assistant gaffer or whatever. It feels, I think you're right, it feels a bit messy. Euan, do we need someone who knows Scottish football though? Because Peter Grant's been mentioned. I think it's just rumours. Marvin Bartley's been mentioned. He was a player under Howe. If it's not going to be John Kennedy, do we need someone else who knows the Scottish game to help Howe, or is that just not important?
It would be very, very useful. I mean, John Kennedy on paper would be kind of the ideal guy to bring that continuity, but as Jackie points out, it's going to be a weird shift in dynamic for the players. The few that'll be left after the season. But I do think, you probably do need someone in the coaching staff, whether that's Gavin Strachan, who I realise is very unpopular, mainly because he has a laptop. I think that's the rationale. Probably providing some kind of continuity. Oh, sorry, no, that shows what I know. It's quite useful to have that continuity in some form, and whether that's someone who maybe played for Celtic further back, who is being coaching elsewhere, or someone like Strachan or Kennedy, I don't really know. I've actually written an article about how Kennedy and Strachan staying would be a good thing, which I now realise is wrong. So thanks to both of you for that. That's
Sorry,
mate, that's what we're here for. We're here to learn.
If you look at it just now, the remaining games. So if you're in the team just now, and he's picking the team, and you're not in the team, then new manager comes in, and you're still not in the team. You'll be thinking, he's maybe influenced in the manager, or you'll have that element of doubt with the players. From just now to new guy come in. I do feel a freshness in there would help. It would help the players more than anything.
Yeah, he seems quite meticulous, Eddie Howe. It seems like he doesn't leave anything to chance. He spends his life, I think, thinking about football. I don't know if you guys have seen the YouTube video with Gary Lineker from a couple of years ago, when he actually says to Gary Lineker, I'm probably putting too much time into football to the detriment of my family life and my wife and my kids. And obviously people will have their own views on, the work-life balance, but from a Celtic fan's point of view, that's exactly what we want to see. We want to see a guy who's going to dedicate his life almost to making Celtic better. There's definite similarities there for me between Eddie Howe and Brendan Rodgers. They actually spent time together when I think Rodgers had Howe into Swansea training about a decade ago. Jackie, do you see similarities between Rodgers and Howe, and maybe even to add to Martin O'Neill?
Yeah, I do actually. I do see, I know they did speak before. I remember on the pro licence that he'd done his club visit to Swansea when Brendan was at Swansea, and studied Brendan and what he was doing and the facilities they had and stuff. It was quite impressive. And I think he's always been quite good at setting his teams up the way he wants to play and not deviating too much, or he has a plan and a system in place that he wants to use, and I don't think he moves away from that. Similar to Brendan, they would just maybe change one or two little things, I think, and believe in what he's doing. And I think that's this season, I don't think we've had a lot of that total belief in what you're doing rather than changing for the opposition. my only reservation would be handling the media and the expectation of being at Celtic. It's not the same as Bournemouth. I've been on record as saying that, and that's a fact. But that would have been the same for many people coming to Celtic job. With Ronnie, even with Brendan, because although he was at Liverpool, they weren't expected to win the league, or they weren't expected to win every game. Second at Liverpool would have been okay at some stages, but at Celtic, he needs to win. He needs to win the league. He needs to win all the games and keep everybody happy. And the scrutiny and the pressure that comes with that will be different from what he's been used to. I know when he'd left Bournemouth the first time and went to Burnley, he had a kind of tough time there, though he had some issues at that time in his life. He'd lost his mother. Yeah. And then he went back down to to Bournemouth and done a fantastic job. That I think that was just that kind of thing that happened in his life at that time. But I think he's a terrific manager. I think he'd be a good addition. I think he conducts himself well. He speaks well. He's intelligent. I can only see being a positive for the club.
Yeah, you touched on that spell he had at Burnley. I think he spent 21 months at Turf Moor. If you're kind of hearing what people are saying and what the media are saying, you'd be forgiven for thinking he had an absolute disaster at that club. He actually took them to 8th in the Championship in his first season, 13th in his second season, and then they were 16th when he left the club, I think midway through the third season. And you're right to point out, it's not something I want to go in depth about on a YouTube video, but you're right in saying that the reason he left Burnley was the death of his mum and the fact that he wanted to be closer to home. So I think the latest was that he might be announced this week, but then, wait out the rest of the season and not take charge until next season. Where do you come down in that debate? Would you be, wanting to get him in as soon as possible, Euan, or would you rather, almost have him not tinged by this disaster of a campaign?
I mean, there's a little of the latter in there, but I think the idea that he wouldn't be joining, full time until summer doesn't mean that he can't do the work in before then. So obviously he can work on particular strategies. He can implement ideas in training. He can get feedback from the coaches that are there already. He can have a proper look at each of the players that are on loan. It gives him more time to actually figure out what he would want to do with the team. So I'm all for him starting this summer. I don't think he can actually really. I mean, the Scottish Cup aside, obviously, it's kind of a zero-sum game for him starting right now, as far as I see it. Whereas if he waits, he sees how things are run, he gets an idea of the club day to day. He can have a look at some of the academy prospects. He can probably chip in with ideas still and have a word in John Kennedy's ear. But as far as I see it, he's best waiting until summer. I just don't see how he could really be advantaged from starting early. But again, I'm not a football manager, so.
Jackie, what do you think?
I can see arguments for both. I think, obviously we have the derby and the cup and another game with them to play. It would give him an insight to individuals day to day, what they're like, in these games. Although he probably isn't starting to the summer, I still believe that he will be doing, as Euan said, he will be, in contact with a lot of people, finding out there, getting his squad together, seeing who he wants, who he doesn't want. But it would be good if he was spending time with them as well, day to day. I would, even if it was maybe, the last few weeks of the season, just getting to know the individuals and, because there's lads there that are going into the last years of their contract that you would want to be tied up, and maybe give them a chance to try and keep them. The ones that are maybe you'd be thinking, like say Dward, Ayer, ones like that. And see what their thoughts are and try and maybe get them to extend their contracts. If they don't, then they'll have to move on in the summer.
Yeah, I must admit, if we've got who seems to be like an elite manager there, I'm of the opinion that I'd want to get him in as soon as possible because there's a Scottish Cup there to be won and Rangers are a good side, but they're not unbeatable and we've actually been the better team than them in the last two derbies. And I think with a manager there who could get the most out of our players, I think we could win that at Ibrox. I'm not saying that we won't win it with John Kennedy in charge, but I think we have a much better chance with Eddie Howe in charge. I would probably prefer him to be in place as soon as possible to give us the best possible chance to win the Scottish Cup, because I think if Rangers end up winning it, it probably doesn't look great from a Celtic point of view, but then equally, it's going to be a fresh start next season anyway. We're excited though, aren't we, Jackie? We're looking forward to this. Eddie Howe, what is it? The Howe helicopter is ready to go.
Yeah, no, I think it's all positive. I think we've been waiting for some news and what's happening. Obviously, I think the news that the chief exec's starting earlier as well is good. I think that it gives him time to to come in with Peter and sort of see everything that's going on behind the scenes, ready for him, which was going to be too late for me. So the fact that he's coming in early, and the signs that obviously the manager's getting appointed director of football, the recruitment's all getting changed. There's so many changes happening at the club, but I can only see it being positive. And I think, what we're hearing coming out, I think it's exciting times.
Final say to you, Euan.
It's great just to be talking positive again about Celtic Football Club. I feel like as a chief sort of doom monger on 67 Hail Hail's website, it's just nice. It's good. I think Dominic Mackay coming in early can only be a good thing. I think getting some fresh impetus at the club is just fantastic all around. So yeah, for so many reasons, next season's massive, but there's a lot to be excited about, I think.
Definitely. Right, guys, thanks for your time. Really do appreciate it. Thanks everyone for watching this. Remember, big thanks from all of us. We crossed the 2 million views mark earlier today. If you've not yet subscribed to the channel, then give that a go. We will have Eddie Howe content coming out everywhere over the next few days, so you'll have to dodge to miss it. Thanks everyone, take care, and hail hail.